Hey everyone, this is Josh with Wright Piano TV. Today's video is for Jane, and she had asked about effective dynamics. This is a really broad topic. I wasn't sure exactly what she wanted me to address, and so I'm just going to talk about some basic concepts with dynamics. First thing that comes to mind with dynamics is dynamic contrast. And within sections, we want to have a lot of contrast. And then in the piece overall, you want a low point, a high point, and then a resolution, for the most part, unless the piece ends big, which a lot of pieces do. But you definitely want to have a distinct place. So first, when you're learning a piece, map out, okay, here's my climax of the piece, and then maybe within each section there's a little climax, so mark that. And then say, okay, building up to this first little climax is this line, and then this line, and that helps you shape music really well. That's the next topic, I guess, is shaping. What shaping means is you see a lot of those slurs or phrase marks in your music. That kind of tells you where to ease into the music and then where to ease out of it. They're not just meaningless lines, as I thought until I was about 10 years old. I just thought, why are all these marks everywhere? I get that you lift off at the end, but do they really need to mark up the entire music? But now I realize, oh, okay. And this is when I switched teachers that I really started to think just on a level where, okay, where is this phrase leading to? Always asking myself that question. Within each little phrase, there's always a high point and a low point, and then within multiple phrases, you have a high point and a low point. So in the Chopin Ballade No. 1, for instance, this could be a climax for for the first little section. So then I come down there, and then bang. So that's a pretty big climax, and even within the climax there was a climax, up here. There's a lot of tension hearing that chord resolve. Okay, but I don't feel like that is the climax of the piece. I think there's, this part is obviously a big climax. Lush, and so the first one's kind of like an exciting big climax. That one's kind of a really lush climax, and the last one is a fiery climax. So we can see there's a lot of different types of climaxes within each section, and then obviously you have low points too. This is just the very beginning of the opening theme. Okay, now I'm going to start talking about those phrases, not the high points now. Okay, so the next thing that comes to mind with dynamics is voicing. So we've talked about, overall kind of planning of our dynamics and shaping phrases. Now we're going to talk about voicing. So what voicing is when one voice sings out over the other voice. There's always a melody and accompaniment. One thing I would encourage everyone to do is think of your piano piece as being a singer with a piano accompaniment. I do a lot of vocal accompanying, and it really helps me in my classical solo piano things because I'm able to imagine the vocalist singing out over this line. So right here is where the vocalist would come in on that first phrase. Maybe they would do this whole line. Sorry. So I'm getting the basic skeleton of the piece, and then I sing out those melodies over the left-hand accompaniment and the right-hand chords. So melody big point. Continues and resolves. Okay, so we see that's just voicing. Now, when you're in voicing, so you can see that there's like 5, 6, 7 tiers of dynamics, and I'm sure there's more. You know, you can get into such minute detail from note to note. I'm not going to get into that. That's just pretty self-taught, I guess. It's self-explanatory. You know, match the sound from note to note so it's not... You can fill to there and then fill it resolve. So that's just kind of self-explanatory. But within your whole line, the voices that are singing out those vocal lines need to be shaped. So it needs to have direction and then come back down, just like the big climaxes in the piece. So he marks an accent on this note. I did a master class with Garrick Olson on this exact piece, and I really liked what he had to say. He actually said this is the end of the phrase. From here, which makes sense. And then you swell to there. This is the end. And then a little tail right there. Resolve that. You can see how blocking that really helps me hear those lines, so then I can shape it really beautifully. And then really resolve and take a little bit of time. So, and so on. And so, the last concept I want to present is that dynamics tie into timing. If we're going up for a big line, you want to swell to that line. You don't want to just, like kind of die. And so when we're swelling to that line, we take time there. Same thing when we're easing into a phrase. Or ending it, as in that's the end of the phrase, and then so don't get too hung up on this idea, but when you're easing into a phrase, kind of take a little bit of time and then swell to the top. That doesn't mean speed up big time, but you kind of let the phrase move, and then when it gets to the top, stretch it out, emphasize it. And so timing does have a lot to do with dynamics as well. Those two go hand in hand to really help the piece be successful. I really hope this has been helpful. It was a broad topic, so hopefully I've broken it down into those different levels. Just to review, sketch out your entire dynamic plan, and then within each section, sketch out your dynamic plan with your climax. And then within each climatic section, you have little climaxes, and then within each soft section, you have little climaxes. And then within those little sections, you then shape each small phrase, and then the whole piece becomes a beautiful story. If anyone has any questions about dynamics or any other questions, feel free to email me. I'll do a video on your request. My email is josh@joshwrightpiano.com, and I usually try and do same day or next day reply with emails, so I'll get back to you regardless. And thanks for joining me today.